Alright, so here's a great way of discovering the notes and chords along the fingerboard. Let's take a chord that you probably already know by now, a C chord. There are three notes in that C chord that make it the C chord. That's a C, E, and a G. But let's take a look at a way of playing those three notes in a different order. Here's your open third string, G. Here's your second string at the first fret is a C. And then your open first is an E. That's part of your C chord anyway. Now, let's just look at those notes again, a G, C, and an E. If you take just the third string, just isolate that third string for a second. That's your G. The next note in the sequence is a C, right? So just going along the G string, move up that string until you find that next note, which is the C. Now just look at where that note is, memorize it, that's a C note on the third string. Then you're going to do the same thing on the second string. Look at your second string, there's your C note. The next note in the sequence would be an open E, or an E. You're going to go up that string until you find an E note. Now you're on that E, and you can take a look. That E note is located directly underneath the C. So we got two of the notes so far. Let's look at our last one, the open E. Now obviously there isn't another string here, but if we think about it, the only note that's missing, we have a C and E. The only note that's missing is a G. So let's go back to that open first string, it's an E, and find a G. Right there at the third fret. If we put these three notes together, we have another way of playing a C chord. If we now did that same, so now we have two ways of playing a C chord. Actually, this is called a root position because the C, it's a C chord, that's a C note, and that's the bottom note. So we call that the root position. One, and if we do the scale, the next note in the chord is the third, and then the next note is the fifth. There we go. So that next note is the fifth. So we have a 1, 3, 5. G, E. I'm sorry, C, G, and E. C, E, G. Blah, coffee hasn't quite kicked in yet. So that would be your root position. If we do the same technique moving up the neck, if we take the C, now on the third string, just move along the neck until we find the next note, which would be an E. Do the same thing now on the second string. You have an E note, the next note is going to be the G. And then we have our G note, the next note is going to be a C. And now we have yet a third way of playing this C chord. So what we have so far is the root position, the first inversion, and now let's find the second inversion, doing the same thing. We take that third string, isolate just the third string, we have an E, the next note in the sequence is going to be the G. Now we'll go on to the second string. This is our G note. The next note in the sequence is going to be a C. And finally, the C note, the next note in the sequence is going to be an E. And we have the next inversion, which is the second inversion, G, C, E. As that is at the 12th fret, At the open, that's what we have there. So we have literally the second inversion, the first inversion, and the root, all the way back to here, the second inversion. This is one of the ways that I learned chords on the guitar. You can do this on any sets of strings. It's the same exact thing. If I was to do it on the fourth, third, and second string, there's my E, G, and C. If I was to do the same technique moving all the way up, I would come up to this, G, C, and E. And if I did this yet again, I would have yet another way of playing the C chord. And it works on any combination of strings with any type of chord. Some of the chords are going to be, doing it this way, will be very hard to finger. But you get an idea as to how the whole fingerboard works in just this way. You can do this with major chords, minor chords, seventh chords, and all different types of chords. Of course, certain chords that have more than 5 or 6 notes in them, it's going to be a little crazy. But you get the idea for putting the basic chords together. And this is a great way to learn your chords up and down the neck. Last but not least, use the chords. Use these chords in a song. If you just learned a new way of playing a C chord, find a way of using that in any song that you like playing. Just go up there once in a while and do that each day. And pretty soon that you won't even have to think about it. You'll just know that's a C chord. Oh boy, this is fun.